After mastering big waves, Laird Hamilton hopes he can master Wall Street by taking his plant-based functional CPG brand public. If you'd asked me what was one of the hottest functional CPG brands on the market that maybe has not really hit the mainstream, maybe people aren't really all that aware of yet, the name I would have given you is Laird Superfood. But that's all about to change because Laird Superfood has filed their S1, which is basically their initial public offering paperwork. If you've not heard of Laird Superfood, it was started in 2015 by namesake Laird Hamilton. And wait, if you don't know who Laird Hamilton is, let me show you this video real quick. So Laird Hamilton is a certified badass in terms of just being a big wave surfer. In that community, he is the guy. And he is also known as somebody that has a very kind of like strict, healthy lifestyle. He has utilized himself as his kind of own experiment for a lot of different kind of products, natural food diets, things that he was looking for to optimize his performance, being that he is on the waves for arguably 4 to 6 hours at a time. He needs to be able to have a ton of energy and his body needs to bounce back as quick as possible when he's taking all those big hits on those waves. So he has really kind of mastered his own diet and his own way of working out and a ton of different things. He's still in great shape. While he was creating these, I think he was kind of sampling out some of his like super coffee to some of his friends. They were talking about how great it was. One of his surfing buddies, the other co-founder and the operational CEO on Laird Superfood, Paul Hodge, they went through a product development journey that was really trying to take a lot of the ideas Laird Hamilton kind of created in terms of his diet and tried to make sure they can commercialize it in a product that was going to be affordable for the common mainstream consumer. So this all kind of culminated into Laird Superfood. It is an emerging consumer product platform that's focused on manufacturing and marketing highly differentiated plant-based functional CPG products. The product portfolio right now of Laird Superfood includes creamers and hot chocolates with functional mushrooms, organic coconut sugar, coconut water with calcified red marine sea algae, and a number of coffees. And Laird Superfood is really in the trifecta, like kind of the perfect intersection of CPG right now. They're doing better for you, they're doing functional, and they're doing plant-based. These are not necessarily like flash in the pan type trends. These are secular trends, in my opinion, that are happening across the overall CPG industry. So Laird Superfood is really just focusing on really all of those hot categories, but it's in an authentic way. It's not something that was created. This was something that Laird Hamilton was honestly living this lifestyle himself and his wife, and just really kind of going through this authentically. And then, hey, let's create a brand around what we're doing. It just so happens to be arguably the hottest intersections of the CPG industry. So what does Laird Superfood's financial data look like? Top line revenue here, 2018, it was $8.3 million, 2019, $13.1 million, and then the first 6 months of 2020, they had already done $11.1 million. So that was a year-over-year growth of 104%. Looking at the first 6 months of 2020's gross margins, it was 31%. This was down almost 900 basis points year over year. If we look at like product categories by just proportion of their revenue to total sales, what they consider coffee creamers is 2/3 of their business. And then kind of equal weight of the next two categories were kind of coffee, tea, hot chocolate, functional elements of those. That's about 16% of their business. And then hydration and beverage enhancements, that's 15% of their business. And they have like an other section that's 2% of their business. If you look at revenue by channel for the first half, wholesale business was 41% of their sales. Direct to consumer was 31% of their sales. And they kind of went on a little bit further and said, of which 31% of that 31% was from the subscription model. They also do 26% of their sales through Amazon, and then around 2% comes from food service. Diving a little bit deeper into the wholesale side of things, Laird Superfood is in around 5,500 locations. They believe long-term it should exceed 20,000 locations in the United States. I think that's pretty low, and I think as they expand out some of their product offerings to maybe things that are more resembling food and beverage, I think that number jumps. Just to give you a little sense of like who are those wholesale accounts, they do sell through some grocery distributors like UNFI and KeHE, which distributes their brand into Sprouts and Safeway. But they also have direct accounts like Costco, which is their largest customer currently, I think a percentage of their business, if you're not counting Amazon, HEB, Hy-Vee, Natural Grocers, CVS, and Kroger, just to name a few. Did want to talk a little bit around like their food service business. I don't know how much this could impact them going forward. I think right now with COVID-19, food service is decimated right now, but I do think it's pretty interesting at least how they're addressing food service, and I think that's a pretty good way to get some trialing that's going on that maybe helps them get people into their ecosystem on a lower price point. So they actually created some like Laird Superfood like platform machinery that they also input into office buildings. I know a lot around like Silicon Valley, and they're really into Laird Superfood. You also have it into some like businesses and colleges. As I mentioned, this isn't a big part of their business, like 2% of their business, but they do believe it's going to be something that they can extend into creating some trialing. Since the inception, Laird Superfood has self-manufactured a lot of their products. I believe currently out of the 26 SKUs, they self-manufacture 17 of them. The 9 that they don't kind of fall into either areas where they don't have scale at yet or they don't have the manufacturing capability, but they like the kind of hybrid model in terms of like self-manufacturing and then co-packing in some other sections, because they believe over time they'll be able to get better profitability when they have that fully optimized. They believe they're able to create innovations much quicker because they do own their own manufacturing. They can turn that on a dime if they need to, or meet demand of a large customer that needs something quickly. And they talked about in the S1 that their current footprint, and when they start adding a few extra pieces of equipment into that footprint, they should be able to easily manage about $100 million in self-manufactured products. Talking about just like innovation, product pipeline, like what's coming in the future, Laird Superfood mentioned a few different products that are going to come out over the back half of 2020. First one being around immune supplement beverage mix. That's kind of a hot category. I think everybody and their mother right now is definitely coming out with one of those products. A plant-based protein powder that opens up your total addressable market much bigger by having a protein powder, a powdered greens beverage mix, a packaged pili nut snack product. Pili nut, to my understanding, is a really big keto nut. I think it's really high in fats. And then an additional flavor of their liquid superfood creamer. But obviously other things could kind of come out, but a lot of it has to match the ethos of the Laird Superfood product platform. This is an uncompromising brand ethos of great taste, high quality ingredients, nutritional density, and functionality. They also talked about, new product development, maybe what they would be looking for if they were going to add any new products. It also needed to meet broad commercial acceptance, has to be something where there's the size of market opportunity that makes sense. They can handle manufacturing process or availability of co-packers, the availability of raw material, and there's just overall shelf life and usage patterns of potential customers. This kind of all needs to work together if they're going to come out with a product. They're going to be very thoughtful in terms of the products that they come out with. Shifting away from like the product and more towards the people that's a part of Laird Superfood, they had 115 employees. They have manufacturing in-house, but they also internalize pretty much everything. They have full scale, pretty much everything. They have branding, marketing, package designing, digital marketing, customer service, data analytic capabilities, along with finance, legal, research and development, and human resource functions. So they have everything. They got everything at this point. They are really kind of secure from a human capital perspective. Now, at the level they're at, to me, I think it's a little bit overboard, but regardless of my opinion and thinking maybe that's a little bit bloated, they think that's a strength for them and they're going to be able to enable significant fixed cost leverage in the future. So I talked about gross margins and revenue, and you're seeing all these costs and you're probably thinking to yourself, do they make any money? And no, they don't make any money yet. The first 6 months of 2020, they have an operating loss of $5 million and they've not made a profit to date yet. I think they have about $8.5 million of cash or cash equivalents on the books, but How are they running this business? It is through investors at this point. I think they've raised somewhere of upwards of like $50 million as a whole. While I followed Laird Superfood before this investment in January of 2019, what really kind of brought my attention to Laird Superfood was that WeWork, yes, the office rental company, was a part of one of their early rounds of investment. So it kind of just threw up a flag for me and thought, why is a rental business investing in a functional CPG brand? So I was like, maybe I should start paying attention a little bit more. But it is important to note, and I believe WeWork has exited their position. I think when they went into that tailspin and a lot of issues with SoftBank, I think when SoftBank came in, they divested of anything that was like a non-core part of that business. So they probably exited a few months ago when Danone Manifesto Ventures, which is an arm of Danone, invested $10 million for 13.4% of Laird Superfood. This does make Danone the biggest shareholder of Laird Superfood. And it's an interesting transaction as a whole because Danone does operate in some of the same categories or some of the assumed categories that Laird Superfood will be operating within in the future. But for Laird Superfood, they're getting, arguably one of the most successful, biggest CPG portfolios in plant-based in the world. So they're able to really kind of tap them for a bunch of different like commercial insights or strategies. Now, the oddity of all this is that, a few months ago, they make this large transaction, and then obviously Laird Superfood was aware that maybe they wanted to exit and went public, or whatever reason, maybe they were looking to maybe raise more capital. For whatever reason, Danone did not purchase them outright. So that's a little bit interesting, especially because through this first 6 months, you're seeing that Laird Superfood grew pretty well. So they were able to grow through this COVID-19 retailing environment. Danone kind of had mixed results in terms of their operating. So you might think to yourself, why don't we buy them early? We already have 13.4% of their business anyways. Maybe this makes sense for us to add a lot more firepower now that we own them. But it didn't happen for whatever reason. Doesn't mean it can't happen in the future. Maybe it even happens before they end up going public. You don't know, but it's just something interesting to kind of think about. Now, on the flip side of Danone thinking about acquiring Laird Superfood, what about the M&A appetite for Laird Superfood? So up to this date, anything revenue-wise was created by their organic products, anything that they created. But they did say there might be some interesting transactions, maybe something that they can tack on to Laird Superfood. So buying something, repackaging it into Laird Superfood, maybe some unique product, unique innovation, something like that that could be value accretive for Laird Superfood. I do want to end this video just on my opinion of Laird Superfood. Just some final thoughts overall. This IPO will give Laird Superfood millions of dollars to create new products, scale and expand its business in a bunch of different areas, undoubtedly, create systems to increase its repeat customers. Laird Superfood is within the triangle, the ideal triangle of intersecting categories within the CPG industry. Like I mentioned before, you have better for you have functional, and you have plant-based. That's about as great of an intersection as you could be at. Similarly, Laird Superfood does have a lot of really good on-trend, authentic brand propositions around sustainability. Now, what's a red flag for me is around what they talk about their product differentiation. They believe this is kind of a big thing for them. I'm not sold on it at all, honestly. Let me explain a little bit on that. So just going through the products, the first one is around their creamers section, which is 2/3 of their business. They talk about differentiation points as great taste. I agree that's extremely important. It is subjective. It does create some moats here and there at times, but I don't necessarily think that is something that's a huge differentiation, especially because nutritional supplement, functional CPG products taste great. They also talk about a limited ingredient deck, easy to copy, and an inclusion of plant-based fats. Again, easy to copy. If you look at the hydration or beverage enhancement side of things, you have, again, great taste. I agree, that's important. It could be a differentiation, but it's subjective. Limited ingredient decks, again, easy to copy. They talk about an ingredient Aquaman. It's not exclusive, so anybody can go out and buy that from that supplier. So again, easy to copy. no artificial sugars, colors, flavors, anything like that. That's a choice and it's easy to copy as well. They're saying you can adjust the serving size for taste preferences. I think that's any ready-to-mix powder. I don't know why that's a differentiation point. And then also that the cost per serving is better than traditional, sports drinks or coconut-based drinks. If you're comparing ready-to-mix powders per serving to a ready-to-drink, like a Gatorade or a Vita Coco or something like that, obviously it's going to be a lower price point. That's all of them. Now, if you look at like some of their functional coffee, hot chocolate, tea, they're talking about like a complimentary sale to some of their creamers. Now, I agree. I think that's a great idea. I think an extension of that and having those in your product portfolio, I think it's easy for you to stack those together and create an easy transaction for consumers. I like that one. And they're also saying that their organic coffee, hot chocolate and things added with mushrooms will serve as a category disruptor. And I think if you consider Laird Superfood in terms of them having more sales in the wholesale environment, I think I agree with them. I think it's a stale category. I think there's not a lot of on-shelf comparable products. I think they can definitely win a lot of sales for consumers that are looking to change up a conventional to a functional or better for you or plant-based. I think they're going to have a ton of that. Now, if you go into the world of online, direct-to-consumer and Amazon, tons of different brands are doing that. Tons of different brands are doing that very well. I don't necessarily think that's a huge differentiator. I think it's just where the category is moving to in the future in terms of like functionality, plant-based, better for you, kind of subcategory of conventional coffee, hot chocolate, and tea. But let's kind of be real here. Great products in the CPG industry is just the entry fee to compete. That does not mean you're going to win. Great products are just something that helps you retention, does not help you with customer acquisition. Yes, Laird Superfood is at the intersection of all the highest growth areas, and in the future, I predict they're secular in terms of their growth trend. You're going to have a ton of growth in terms of total addressable market being in that kind of intersection of better for you, functional, and plant-based. But what is really going to make a difference and what is going to be a win or a loss for Laird Superfood has nothing to do with product. It actually has to do with the personal brand that it's attached to. Laird Hamilton is a trusted and authentic brand persona. It is the namesake. He is what is going to make this differentiated. This is what's going to make anything special. He cannot be copied at all by anybody else. He is a super unique person. And if he continues down the path in an authentic way to live the lifestyle and can be that figurehead and not necessarily be like, out in the open all the time and being a used car salesman and making sure that you're always buying products from Laird Superfood, I don't think you do that. But I think if he continues to live that lifestyle, if he's still thought of as this aging super athlete that's able to keep up and maybe have figured out some way to taste the fountain of youth, that is attractive to all consumers. I don't care what age you are. Everybody is looking to attach themselves a little bit to the fountain of youth. Somebody like Laird Hamilton is this icon and, say, how's he doing this? Oh, it's because of these products that he's created and he's lived this lifestyle for years and decades. That's what differentiates Laird Superfood. That also has the flip side of a negative and a risk. Hey, if he walks away, or maybe there's a disagreement in the company, or maybe he decides he wants to live a different lifestyle. All those things are risks. But if Laird Hamilton can live this authentic lifestyle that he's been living for as long as I've ever even heard of him, I think that Laird Superfood has that differentiation. If they're just going to fall back on product and all those types of things, it's a dime a dozen. It's a sea of sameness. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos, would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly. And if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you some value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.